Hi, my name is Erica, and I'm here today to talk to you about the significance of canine conditioning. More specifically, I'm talking about canine conditioning for our sport and working dogs. Just like human athletes, our canine athletes need to be at top physical condition to really be at peak performance, to perform their best both physically and mentally. And I find that a lot of times we really aren't thinking about them as athletes, and we're not treating them as athletes. And in the working dog world, in the sport dog world, we have very, very high drive dogs, and I hear a lot of people saying our high drive dogs don't show pain. They don't show subtle signs of soreness. And at the same time, I have friends along the way, and myself included, where we have this kind of gut instinct sometimes when we're training or even after training where we feel like something's off, something's not quite right. We feel like there might be a potential soreness or injury, but we just can't put our fingers on it. And what I've learned through going through the experience of my own dog becoming injured, he had a pulled groin or iliopsoas muscle, going through recovery, going through the process of physical therapy, I really jumped headfirst into learning as much as I could about canine massage and conditioning. So that number one is I didn't want my dog to become injured again. And number two, I wanted to see what can I do to prevent injuries from happening. And number three, just kind of a side effect that I wasn't quite expecting along the way is as I started educating myself and learning more and more, I found out that I became much, much more in tune to my dogs. So that when I had that kind of gut feeling, that sixth sense that something was wrong, as I was educating and learning more, I started to realize that I started to be able to identify what some of those gut feelings meant and what was it that I was feeling and thinking and having the sense for. I was able to start to look at my dog in new ways to be able to identify subtle signs of imbalance, subtle signs of weakness. I started to detect aches and pains well before any type of injury occurred, so that I would notice my dog was sore and I could immediately react to that. I could give him an extra day of rest. I can give him extra massages, do a jump start and do a preventative, go visit the vet ahead of time if I feel like something was wrong, but I didn't see any distinct limping. So there are tremendous, tremendous benefits to engaging your dog in a canine conditioning program. Not only just to have a fitter dog, healthier dog, a faster dog, a more agile dog, but also the impact that it's going to have on you. It can transform the entire way that you view your dog, the way that you see your dog. And if you're like me, if you start to educate yourself and learn about these things, I promise you will never ever see your dog in the same way again. You will look at your training differently, what you do before training, during training, and after training. All of this will be totally transformed. So what I've done for you is I've put together a series of 3 videos. I've studied a lot about canine massage and conditioning. I've learned so much, and along the way I've had people ask me to share what I've been learning. I've had people ask me to give seminars. I created online courses, and I find that by sharing with people the things that I've learned along the way, that they're starting to look at their dogs differently. They're starting to treat their dogs like the athletes that they are. They are also starting to develop that sixth sense, that critical eye for noticing imbalances and strengths and weaknesses in their own dogs, so that they can act accordingly and develop a conditioning program that's really going to strengthen their dog's weaknesses. In this first video, I'm going to talk to you about this very idea of developing that sixth sense, that kind of critical eye to notice those very subtle signs of imbalance and weaknesses in your dogs. In the second video, once you notice these imbalances, you need to act accordingly. You want to strengthen your dog. So the second video focuses on that. And more specifically, I'm going to talk about strengthening those core muscles, making your dog stronger in the core so that they can handle the demands of work and sport much better. In the third video, I'm talking about the components of a balanced conditioning program, how to get started, and I'm also going to talk more specifically about building endurance in your dogs. So once Bachi started on his recovery process, I needed to think about building endurance, building strength to get him back into competition, back into training, so that we can get on to the trial field. So first, let me introduce you to Bachi. Bachi is my Belgian Malinois. I do French ring, as I mentioned, with him. And when he was about 9 months old, he had this kind of sporadic, kind of reoccurring, very subtle signs of lameness. But it wasn't really I say lameness, but it was more like once in a blue moon. It would never happen while training. He would get up from the floor from sleeping, and he would do a limp, and he would limp maybe once or twice, and then he'd start walking and he would look fine. And it was almost like I thought that sometimes it looked like his leg had fallen asleep. I took him to the vet, and of course he never limped when I took him to the vet. We did x-rays. They manipulated and felt around. I took him to multiple vets, and nobody gave me a definitive diagnosis. I had some people say it was pano. I had another doctor look at the same x-rays and say it wasn't pano. Even there, I didn't get any kind of consistent diagnosis. So this went on for about 9 months, and the veterinarians pretty much said that if he's not limping, he's not showing pain, I could continue to work him. And what happened was I found a canine physical therapist who specialized in dealing with soft tissue injuries, and literally this was after 9 months of dealing with this, trying to figure out what was wrong with my dog. Some people thought I was imagining it, but again, that gut feeling told me something wasn't quite right, and I'm glad I pursued it. But the physical therapist, within, I would say, 5 minutes or less, she actually diagnosed the injury. It was a pulled iliopsoas, a pulled groin muscle. And what happened was, because it had been going on for so long and nobody really caught it, and I had continued to work with him, it basically became chronic. We believe it started on one side as a result of possibly some weakness in his lower back. And then we actually had it occur on both sides, on the back right and left leg is where we had it. So this was Bachi's story. I was so happy to actually get a diagnosis. And then we were on a long road to recovery. He basically lost an entire season to competition. I would say 6 weeks of complete rest, physical therapy, and it took us probably about 10 months to get him back to where we were able to compete again. So after Bachi went through this, I always knew that I had to keep an eye on the lower back, keep him strong, keep those core muscles strong, and I knew that when he would fatigue and get tired, a lot of times that weaker side would be where I would notice these things. And so periodically when he would get tired, or periodically when he was pushing himself, I would notice very, very subtle signs of fatigue and soreness. And one of the subtle signs that I noticed is when Bachi's out in the field and he's just running and romping and playing on his own, he's funny. He just kind of naturally does these figure eights. He'll go to the right and go to the left, and he's switching his balance very evenly, changing his balance as he does these figure eights. Well, what I noticed down the road, and this was about a year or two later when he was having some soreness, was when he was out in the field, he was not running his usual figure eights. Instead, he kept favoring one side. He kept circling to one side. And even when I tried to encourage him to switch to the other side, he would do a couple strides and then he would go right back to the circle and the balance on the side that he was most comfortable with. And I have a background in horses and horseback riding, and I related this a lot to horses and their lead changes. So what I'm going to do here is I have a video for you. I'm going to show 2 different horses, and I'm going to do some slow motion to talk to you about how the horses are shifting their balance when they're circling to the right and circling to the left. And then I'm going to show you a video, and I'm going to relate it to Bachi. It's a video of Bachi circling to the right, circling to the left, so you can see the change in balance, to see the change of that lead change. So here, the very subtle sign that I noticed that something wasn't quite right, and his balance was off, and he was favoring one side. It was not limping, it was not yelping, he was not showing any overt signs of pain. It was a very subtle sign of imbalance that I noticed was something that's usually not there, because I know normally he's pretty balanced and he doesn't run always favoring one side. So watch this next video, watch very carefully, and I promise after you view it, you'll start to look at your own dog differently. So what you see now is a screenshot of Jasper in a canter position, and we'll see him moving in just a second. And what I want you to pay attention to is going to be the movement of the feet. The canter is a 3-beat gait. Think of it as the back leg as propulsion, pushing the horse forward, and then we see the front right leg that's farther away from us and the back left leg that's closest to us. They move on a diagonal. So diagonal is what we call it, and those 2 legs will actually move together and land and hit the ground at the same time. So that's beat number 2, and then beat number 3 is this front left leg. The horse will be cantering to the left to maintain balance and efficiency and movement. The left leg is going to be leading and guiding the horse as he's going around the circles, is one way to think of it, as a left lead. So watch that as I now put him in movement. Again, it's the left lead supporting balance as he goes around to the left. Okay. The next horse we're going to be seeing going to the opposite direction, and this horse is actually going to have a change in leads. It's going to change which lead is leading in the front to help maintain balance around the turns. So here's the right leg leading around the curve, a figure 8. As he hits the middle, we're going to see a switch right there in balance to the left lead, and I'll do it in slow motion to point it out a little bit easier for you, and then I'll play it again. So here he is going around. Again, watch the 3-beat gait. The right foot is leading in the balance around in the front leg. The diagonal 2 legs fall together. You see the back hind leg is a separate beat by itself. As he nears the center of the figure 8, we're going to see a shift in balance and the lead right there to the left lead. Okay? And I will play it this time, one last time, in regular speed so that you can hopefully see a little bit better. As he's going around the corner and switches in the middle, and there we go, a change in lead. Next, I'm going to show you a video of my dog in motion doing more or less an equivalent to a canter, but he's not going to be as graceful as a horse doing dressage. But just to give you an idea, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking at that lead leg in the front. I'm looking at the balance. I'm looking at how easily he does or does not switch balance from the left lead to the right. I'm going to show it in regular speed first, and then I'll slow it down for you so hopefully you can see it a little bit easier. So here we go on the left lead. We're going around the circle to the left, and actually as he comes out of the circle he's going to switch to the right lead, and then he switches back to the left. Let's show it in slow motion. Here we have the left lead. He's not exactly 3 beats. He gets a little bit of a 4-beat, a gallop in part of this turn, but you get the idea. You see him leaning into the inside of the circle, the left lead. Now watch closely as he comes out of the circle. He's going to switch to the right lead, and then 1 or 2 steps he goes right back. Left lead, right there, changes to the right, and there he changes to the left. Imagine a world where instead of just having that gut feeling that something is off or wrong with your dog, you now have that confidence and the knowledge to observe with that critical eye that notices strengths and weaknesses. Imagine a world where you can confidently recognize your dog's structural and muscular strengths and weaknesses, and you know how to design and implement a balanced conditioning program that results in a stronger, healthier, and better conditioned dog that excels in sport and work. Imagine a world where you have the confidence and the skills to recognize those early signs of imbalance, of discomfort or pain or weakness, so that you can take action and seek help when needed to ensure the overall health and safety of your dog. You can achieve this, and I can help you do this. I've been through this, I've lived it, I've studied it, and after experiencing an injury that took my own dog out of training and competition for almost a year, I was able to get him stronger and fitter so that he could return to competition. I then took what I learned and I applied it to all my other dogs, enabling me to notice weaknesses and subtle signs of soreness much, much sooner than before. And because of this, I've been able to act quickly and reevaluate and change our conditioning programs so that my dog's weaknesses can become more of their strengths. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how I used Bachi's weaknesses and turned them more into his strengths to make sure he had a full recovery. More specifically, I'm going to show you some of the exercises I did to develop core strength. So stay tuned, keep an eye out for that video, and also I would love to hear any comments and stories that you would like to share where you've experienced perhaps that kind of gut feeling that something was off with your dog. And let me know, were you able to figure out what it was, or was it always a mystery to you? So leave a comment below, feel free to share this videos with others, and stay tuned and keep an eye out for video number 2.